Back everybody to Aaron's Real Tech. We're over here watching the WWDC 2022 Apple Developers Conference, all right? And as typical Apple fashion, starting with their really creepy CGI Bitmoji things, right? But then they're gonna do the typical where they show you off the beautiful Apple Ring Dome. We're gonna skip past that here because I want to get into the good stuff. So our categories, we're just gonna go through the stream here, and I know you guys have probably seen most of this already, so I'm not gonna bore you with, like, you know, the generic stuff here, but to go over it really quickly to get into the good stuff, right? iOS 16 came out, or is entering developer preview, and it's basically just a bunch of minor enhancements here, right? So you're getting lock screen changes where you can customize your lock screen. They're basically copying everything that was in the Google Make It Yourself trailer. So I mean, like, as you can see here, custom clock, dates, photos. If you scroll through here a little bit as well, what do you call it? You can make it personal. And the widget parts. See, I think that's kind of neat though, but it's whatever. This is all minor enhancements. It's nothing really major. I would consider this honestly more like an iOS like 15.5 update or something. It just seems like a bunch of just like quality of life stuff that should have been there from the beginning. Apple's always been notoriously bad with lock screens, forever really. Then they're bringing in some editing text messages. So now if you send a message you don't want to send, you know, you can just, you know, wipe that shit out. But going through here some more, right? So iOS updates are just the typical phone stuff: updated text messages, updated maps, updated lock screen. He's looking pretty fly. You know, it's just I think this is a minor update, honestly. The only cool thing I really like about this is the fact that you can now use password pass, which is basically encrypted fingerprint reading and stuff. It's to get rid of the passwords. You know, nobody likes writing down passwords, keeping a full book of them or anything like that. So this kind of just helps with that. You can use your finger and it syncs up with a bunch of devices, including all your Apple stuff as well, Apple Pass and all that stuff. So that's pretty neat. Then they go back into the ecosystem stuff. And this is just Apple Home. I can't think of anyone who cares about Apple Home really. This is cool. I actually like this right here. Apple CarPlay Car is what this should be called. It's basically their take on Tesla, right? So looking here, I've always wanted this, right? I'm a guy, I drive Jeep Wranglers, trucks, all that fun stuff, all the big boxy vehicles that don't really have a lot of technology packages with them, right? And every time I get one, all I do is I upgrade to a touchscreen, an Alpine system, or, you know, something like that, kicker speakers, all the fun stuff, right? But this is one thing I always did like. And I know on Jeep Wranglers, you used to, I don't know if you can still do it, change out your entire back dash over here, and get a complete digital cluster with sort of the same setup as Apple has here. But if they can make something like this standard with Android Auto and CarPlay in most vehicles, I don't see the point of having analog speed gauges and whatnot anymore. I think that's kind of useless. I'd rather have a display like this that I can kind of customize. I would like to have a big screen in the middle of my vehicle with all the information I care about at a glance. I still think we should have volume dials and temperature dials though. Don't get me wrong. That's one thing that should be kept. Also, Apple Maps, you can hate it or love it. I prefer the Apple Siri voice over the Google voice. I prefer the way the maps look on Apple as opposed to Google. But for best directions and most updated warnings and traffic jams and all that stuff, Google's the way to go. That just seems to be it. Apple Watch OS gets some upgrades, kind of the same cliche as the iOS 16, where it keeps better track of your haptics, your life. You can put stuff on the screen as well. Nothing crazy here. Continuing on in the health app is now on the iPhone now for free, just generically put there now, which is great. But this is where I wanted to go. This is where it is. The new MacBooks. This is something that came out of nobody. Everybody was super surprised about, due to the fact that they usually don't announce any hardware during these events. This is usually developer software takes, and, you know, this really felt like it was pointed towards us, the consumers. And it was just very interesting on how they did all this, right? So M1 being about what, a year and a half old now at this point, and basically slaughtering the entire competition for the whole year and a half it's been out, in almost every category except for GPU, right? AMD's APUs are just superior to what M1 is capable of, including M1 Pro, where they said it was about equal to a 3090 and it was about a 3060, right? And now they're announcing, ba-da-ba, M2. I'll let him say it. With that classic Mac startup sound. So this is where we're gonna get kind of interesting here, right? So I've had an M1 device, I've had an M Pro device. I haven't had a Mac. Actually, no, I had a Max, not an M Pro. I'm sorry. So M1 Max. I didn't have the Ultra. I thought the Ultra was going to be a bit overhyped, and it really was. Don't get me wrong, it's a powerhouse, but not for what I needed it for. Continuing on here, right? If we go through this, where is it? Right here. The only real difference, right? So if we pull up the M1 specs, right? We'll do M1 Pro, right? Just no M1 chip. And if we do cores, I'm pretty sure if we pull this up in images here, yeah, here it is. So if we just take a quick look at this, right? Just quickly. Here you go. So it's the same setup, right? So you have your 4 performance and you have your 4 efficiency cores. However, these are clocked way faster, and as he's saying here, obviously way more cache as well. It's a pretty good upgrade. I mean, they're over here saying, right, you can't really trust the Apple charts too much because it's all in-house performance gains and checks and, you know, all that fun stuff, right? So if you look in here, the M1 starts off at basically what I would estimate this to be 1, right? So 1 and 40 for relative performance. I don't know what their performance check is, but 40 performance, right? Well, for the same 1, there's nothing there for the M2 at all. The M2 starts at what I would consider maybe 2, maybe 3, right? And yeah, it starts off at 3 watts, but the 3 watts started off at like 50 on this performance scale, right? So this is already a awkward comparison because everything would start off at 0. So I don't understand how this graph, like, unless it loops up like that, you know what I mean? It's a bit wonky. So you can't really trust the graph. I guess if you ignore this whole bottom part right here, the 18%, I think 18% is good for a generation upgrade, right? So this is just a base M2, right? You're getting 18 more performance on it. It's a 10 core, yeah, see? And then if you look in the bottom left here, I'll full screen this for you guys. Wait for the little window, YouTube bar to disappear. Or not, come on, disappear. Or not, whatever. It says it's using a 10-core PC laptop performance data from a Samsung Galaxy Book 2 360 with an i7 1255U, right, and 16 gigs of RAM, right? Well, we don't know the RAM usage on the M2 book. We don't know the RAM usage on the M1, right? They go up to 24 now. We also don't know the wattage on that they had set for the Galaxy Book 2 as opposed with this one, right? And again, the Galaxy Book starts off at 0. This one kind of doesn't start off at 0. It's just a bunch of weird stuff. So take this with a grain of salt. I'll be getting one in soon to go ahead and, you know, go over it with you guys, and we'll bring it around the other like chips, and we'll really see what's going on with it. I have a 1207. I'm sorry about that. 12700K here that I've overclocked to about 5.1 gigahertz on all cores, stable on air, by the way. So we're gonna be running that against the M2. So don't worry, that's coming in. And then same here. This one looks more like it starts off on 0, so this one might be more accurate representation. And don't get me wrong, this is a 1260 now, 1260p. versus the M2. Apple, like I said, Apple's been slaughtering the CPU competition for a while now with the M1s alone. The M1 would probably be around at the 100 mark, so the M1's still beating the 10 core Intel chip here. But like I said, there's not a lot of information on it besides just the brand and then the chip. There's no wattage, there's no what it's clocked at, if it was throttling or not, just none of that, or even what they were using to bench this stuff, right? There's none of that information provided. Again, we'll be checking that as well. Moving on here. This is the, again, i7 1260p again, 12 core. And like, actually, I think this is supposed to be the i9, to be honest, but it's fine. But I mean, for half the wattage only really matters, right, if you're actually going to be using this unplugged on your lap, right? Nobody is going to be full on. I mean, you can, right? But it doesn't make most sense to just full on start rendering like a 5-hour 4K video on your lap. That just doesn't equate. It doesn't make sense. You wouldn't really do that because you really couldn't use the laptop for anything else besides letting it render out everything out, right? Even with its separate rendering cores, you'd still want the device to use the most power it could use to render it in the fastest time, most reliably, right? So you would have it plugged in. So wattage doesn't really matter too much in relative to performance. This is all basically a battery life metric, which we'll also be testing. Yeah, here it is. So there's your media codecs. These are your neural engines right down here. This RAM and all that fun stuff, right? And this is your GPU cores. And we're gonna design our own MacBook Air here in a second. I just wanted to go through this kind of quickly here. Just a few things I'm curious about, right? So over here, they're saying that you can get clean audio. I'm gonna mute that here. They said you can get surround sound from this. Now, I'm gonna be very impressed if they can. Now, Apple's notoriously really good at making sound quality devices. They are, I would say, probably the best laptop sound speakers by far on any device I've ever heard, looked at, reviewed, tested, anything like that, right? However, these are two speakers that are underneath the keycaps pointing at the screen. So I'm not entirely sure how these are going to sound, as opposed to the MacBook Pro that has the open grills on the sides underneath and in the front, where you actually get that surround sound, especially with Dolby. The chassis is basically the same as the normal Air. There's not much change there. They did add in a, right here, a 1080p webcam. But in the same context, they also recommend to use your phone. Well, they don't really recommend it, but they said you can now use your phone as a webcam on Apple devices for free, and that you can just pass your FaceTime calls around. So, all right, enough of the video here. Let's go look at the devices themselves, right? So we're looking here, right? Here's a MacBook Air. This is the one I assume everyone's gonna get. So let's go to view pricing here. All right. So the M1 chip, $999. I still think this is a pretty good deal, right? And this comes with the 7-core GPU. Yeah, I would not say to get the M1 with the 7-core GPU. Oh, they removed the 8-core option. Now that's interesting. Unless does it just pop up? All right, well, maybe not. So, if you're doing any rendering or anything like that, don't even bother with the Air M1 at this point. There's no point to do this. $999, and you're getting worse specs. And even if you do like the 18 to 35% difference in performance, right? It still works out to this being a better option. Now, between these two here, I personally, with Apple devices at least, don't care about internal storage too much. I just want to install my programs, and they usually aren't too big, right? So programs aren't too big, and then you need to deal with, if you're doing video editing, most of that's going to be external. You're going to have that on either external hard drives, external SD disks, stuff like that. And they're going to be going on your laptop, and then they're going to be rendered and then pushed right off, right? That's how I at least do it. So size for hard drive size doesn't really matter to me too much. What I do care about, though, is that 10-core GPU. That's what I care about. I also care about more RAM, right? Because your CPU and GPU are based off the RAM speed. So just to go over this real quick, it's about a $300 difference between the two of them. And this is the same thing, 2 extra cores and then double the storage for $300. Apple? Why? All right. Now, if we go into here, right? So I'm going to build mine. I'll explain why I built mine here in a second. So we're going to go with the 10. We'll go with the 16. And then we'll take the fast charger, right? Actually, you know what? This is the one I'm a bit confused on. Well, not confused, but a bit, what's the word I want to use? Hesitant on, right? So I kind of just want a quick adapter, right? It's $20. Who cares, right? But then I can get a dual port, which is slightly faster than USB-C. I mean, estimated battery life with this right now is what, 24 hours of battery? It's ridiculous, and they've been very good with that so far. So I don't doubt it, right? I don't doubt that I'll at least be able to get a full day out of this, no problem, right? So let me sort of dive in here to why I think this is the best build to do. Again, so just to go over it again. So you're gonna want to go with the 2 extra cores here. $100, that's fair. I'll give that, right? I would prefer if it was like $50, to be honest, because the cores are probably all there. They're just deactivating them and reactivating them. It wouldn't make sense for them to give, to make separate SKUs of the chips, you know, for more cost, you know, changing the entire composition of it. This doesn't make sense with me. So I would go with the 10. The 16 core neural engine doesn't matter to me. I don't care about that. But the 10 core GPU is what's important, because even if you don't game on your MacBook, right, this is going to help you with rendering, YouTube videos, even just splicing through your videos, audio content. The GPU is so important, and the 8 core normal CPU is going to be completely fine with every task. With the 4 performance cores, you're going to be fine with that. The 10 core GPU is just a must have. Continuing down the RAM, as I said before, this pricing is absolutely ridiculous. They're basically saying it's $100 per 8 gigs of RAM, which is just untrue. They don't even have the clock speeds on the RAM at all under anything. I mean, you can fish for it in the product screen underneath the overview, right? Let me see if they even show it here. No, they don't even show it. So yeah, it's ridiculous, but whatever. So back to it here. All right. So I do love this black design. This looks super nice. Actually, here we are. We're on the screen. Blah 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 blah. I don't like space gray anymore. I used to love it, but it just looks boring, I guess. MagSafe is a big part too. I love MagSafe. MagSafe is genius. Every device should have it. Speaking of MagSafe and how every device should have it, right? Hooking up my microphone to do this video here. This microphone uses a micro USB cable and a what's it called? I'm drawing a blank here. I apologize. I don't remember, but it uses 2 different cables. And my micro USB literally broke in half. So it's ridiculous. And at an angle, it should just disconnect, pop out. That would save so much time, money, and resources. It'd be really easy to replace, really user repair friendly. Now, back to like the money scheme, right? So they're saying it's 1.4 in performance increase over the last generation. 1.4, does that equal to another 100, 200, 300, 400 bucks for you? That's obviously up to you to decide. This metric is just, they're doing a duo core versus a 10 core. So, or 8 core, right? So 2 versus 8, come on. Like, of course it's going to be 15 times or more faster. That's basically all I care about on the screen. The nits is nice. Liquid Retina has always looked very nice. I've never had an issue with that. The mics, very curious about. Because they're also in the keyboard. They're right next to the speakers. So we're going to have to test that out. Yeah, again, Apple does it again. They put 2 ports on one side with the MagSafe and then 1 charger on the side. I would like if they put 1 on each side instead. That makes it easier for mice and other components, right? That's kind of what you're looking at. So ignoring all that, let's go back to pricing here. Any editor or even like college student, I'd recommend just spending the extra few bucks here, right? And you can get it for $15.19, right? Or $126 a month, however you want to do it. But this is the go-to. I think this is gonna way outsell even the Mac Pros, right? So even with the Mac Pro, if it loads here, right? And we go to Mac Pro here. right? And don't get me wrong, the Mac Pro 13, which is basically the same thing as the Air, it's 100% the same thing as the Air. If they had this in black, this would be a buy. I think most people are not going to buy it because it's just 2 colors and people are very color specific. I'm pretty color specific. I like my matte blacks or just my matte colors. I don't like the middle between colors, you know what I mean? But so for the Air, right? This starts off with the 8-core 10 core GPU. We go into here and we go to 16 gigs of RAM. Right? I guess, why is this coming off cheaper now? 1400 and the other one was 1515. What the heck? Something's going on with Apple's website, I guess. But regardless, so the Pro brings back the touch bar. But I mean, the only difference is you get a fan. That is the only change that I can see here, is you just get a fan in it. It's the same thing. Well, yeah, 1.4. Again, they're just using very specific things 6 times. This is the only thing you're getting. You're just getting a fan. And the M1 originally was very good. The Air barely overheated as far as I've tested and seen. These are 20 hours of battery life, so I'm fine with this. A little bit slower of a charger. It's gonna last me a whole day, and I'll just charge it when I sleep. You know, don't stress on the charger too much. Screen's the same. The camera is 720p as far as I know. They're not even boasting the camera on this one. The audio though, it's probably gonna be way better. The audio is gonna be from the speakers, 100% speakers. I'm surprised it came back with the touch bar though. That's very surprising because they've removed it. But I mean, honestly, I think the MacBook Air with the M2 in the black is gonna be the go-to for everybody. It's the thinnest, it's the lightest, best. You're gonna get the best webcam, less bezels. You can even see it right here. You're gonna get way less bezels on it, more color choices, more flexibility. Yeah, you lose 2 hours of battery life, but I don't know how specific this is gonna be. The batteries are basically the same for size. Yeah, I don't know why the Mac 13 was cheaper. It starts off $12.99, it's $11.99. So I'll have to investigate that later. But I mean, look at this. Same storage, Touch ID. No one uses the touch bar. I thought it was kind of cool when I did some edits on it, color correction and whatnot, but you know, I don't really see it doing too much here. But yeah, that's all I have for now on WWDC and the new MacBook Pros. I don't really care about the iOS updates. iPad iOS 6 I thought was really neat. I actually liked the Stage Manager, although that's just a pretty jank multiple desktop on Windows or a Alt-Tab ability. They're refusing to put macOS on the tablet, which is, it's fine, I guess. They don't want to have 2 of the same products that outsell each other or something. I don't know. But they're bringing it a little bit more user-friendly with that new update there. So, yeah, that's basically all there is to it. I mean, obviously, like I said, the new Mac version, iOS 16, iPad OS 16, same thing as iOS. This is the same thing as well. Then you have the new Mac Pro 13. So, yeah, I'm telling you, everyone's gonna go for the Air. It just seems to make the most sense. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about this video format and if I should either continue doing this where I sort of go over the website specs and whatnot and everything on it and then show my point of view on it, or if I should break it down to more of a quick little recap videos instead here. This is a new setup I'm doing. This is obviously a new channel. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Be friendly in the comments and let me know what you guys think. Are you going to get the MacBook Air, the Pro, none? You stick with Windows devices? You're going to just work on a rock, you know? Like, tell me what's going on, you know? But yeah, thanks guys for watching and I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.